Hey, what's going on there, YouTube? This is SCL0320 representing JVS. So this is another one of my reviews for a movie I've yet to see until yesterday. Finally, I've been waiting for this because Casey Affleck has been getting so much acclaim for it. But what I did not realize is that the entire cast brought it in the most small, simplistic but powerfully acted sequences of film that I've seen all year, honestly. And I'm talking about Manchester by the Sea. This was directed by Kenneth Lonergan. Lonergan actually wrote the screenplay for Gangs of New York, which I loved personally. But he also wrote like screenplay for episode of Doug, which is really ironic because I love Doug. I used to love Doug. He hasn't had anything really big, but this script, I don't know if this is based on a real story or not. I don't know if this is based on any kind of book, but it should be because the story is so real and so visceral in terms of the way that they capture it, making it feel as though this is more of a biography of somebody that lived through something like this, and at the same exact time, like just a tragic story of life, death, family, able to cope, able to not cope. What does that do to a person? And I'm talking about Casey Affleck's character. Casey Affleck's character is named Lee Chandler, and ironically, his brother, played by Kyle Chandler, his name is Joe Chandler, and unfortunately, Joe dies, and like essentially, Casey Affleck's character is left to take care of his brother's son, Patrick, and Patrick is played by Lucas Hedges. And I hadn't seen this kid play in anything. I mean, I think the only movie that I think that I knew about him starring in was what's that name? The Zero Theorem. And that was it. Because I love Christoph Waltz, but I hadn't even seen that movie. So I literally had not seen any trailers of this movie. I didn't know what it was about. I heard it was very sad. I heard it was perfectly acted. And it was all true. But let's go ahead and break this down. In terms of the way that they were able to capture this film and make it feel as though like it was a real biography, like this was something that really happened, was the attention to detail with the screenplay as well as the cinematography. Because a lot of moments that happened for Lee's character, it seems very disjointed. Like I was sitting there going like, why is this flashback here? Is this the present? Is this the past? Because it seemed like, honestly, two different people that Casey Affleck was playing. But you come to find out he was a totally different person before until a series of events happened that changed his whole outlook. And I think that they captured that perfectly. As well as the simplicity of the cinematography and the scenery of Massachusetts, which is a little town called Manchester. They did a really good job capturing. It was really well showcased in terms of somebody that's never been to Massachusetts or understand like the different locations in between like New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and anywhere any close to Boston or anything like that. So I've never been there, so it immersed me into that world as well as the dialogue. And a part of that has to do with Casey Affleck's performance. Oh my gosh, Lucas Hodges' performance. And I looked at the interview, I was like, this dude grew up in Brooklyn, New York, but this dude had a thick Boston accent. And I was like, it is uncanny because the wording and the verbiage and the cussing and just the way that he was able to formulate his words, him and Casey Affleck, they had amazing chemistry. Even though their dialogue with each other was not like good dialogue in terms of like positive, but in terms of, I understand how people communicate around like that area, you know what I'm saying? And it makes sense as to how they're communicating with each other, given the circumstances that are around them, given the death of, Patrick's father and, Lee's, his brother. But the other standout in this is Michelle Williams. Oh my gosh, bro. Like she wasn't even in the movie that long. She wasn't. Real talk. She has maybe two or three real scenes longer than 30 seconds. Because there's one scene in the beginning, it was just a flashback, and she accent is on point as well. But there is a couple scenes that she plays in this film, and I'm not going to spoil this film at all, that I was like, the heartache and the pain that was coming off of her dialogue and the concern level, I was like, dang. Like this girl, like her and Naomi Harris, like honestly, either one of them, they could take it. I mean, Viola Davis is probably going to win, but honestly, looking at both of those performances, like in the smallest amount of scenes, that's the thing about this. Like this movie isn't like, like all throughout the entire film, it's just heart-wrenching stuff that's happening. It's more on the internal side that you have to pay attention to. You have to pay attention to how they were before as to how they are now. Because you could sit there and look at Lee in the beginning of the movie and like, okay, he's just a jerk. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just a loner. You know, he's just, you know, but you can tell through Casey Affleck's amazing performance how damaged and hurt he is. And that's the standout. And the thing is, like, it's not like I'm saying that his was any better than Michelle's or Lucas's performance, but it was like, there was one sequence, bro, in one of the flashbacks. I saw Casey Affleck do something, and I was like, dude, this looks real. And that's the thing, like, I know that sounds strange, but there are some actors that can act so well that you cannot distinguish what is real and what is, you know, acting. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost as though he took on the mantle of that pain and made it an embodiment of the character Lee. And that's the thing that I'm saying to you, that there are key scenes that happen in this film that to me trigger him as being the Oscar winner of Best Actor. And it's going to be hard because Denzel does the same exact thing in Fences. But it's very different. It's very subtly done. Like, there are moments where Lee, he can be just the most kindest person. Because at one point, Patrick just has a nervous breakdown. And like, oh my gosh, dude, like, Lucas Hodges does a great job of that performance. But the response that Casey Affleck's character does, it was just, it came out of nowhere. Because I was like, who is this dude? You know? And it's just like, yo, it was really well done. So all in all, in terms of the actual story, it's a general based story. It's not for the faint of heart. It is a sad story. I will admit to that. Me and my fiance looked at it. Dude, she felt depressed. I felt down, but at the same time, I was like, I can't deny the fact of they acted their butts off in this film. The screenplay was perfect in terms of the way, how simplistic it was, but it identified with something that seemed like it was very real and visceral. And then on top of the way that they would capture Massachusetts, or this location, this town, that brings out so much pain within Lee, but he is literally catered to have to deal with this circumstance that he cannot really deal with. And how they get through the story, it was very well done. It was very sad. It's not a movie you can sit there and watch over and over and over again, but from what I was given from it, it was one of the most powerful, like, movies I think I've seen in 2016 without trying to be powerful. I think that's the thing. Like, it wasn't like, you know, it was like death and all this kind of stuff, or like, you know, something supernatural happened or anything like that. It was just a good, potent story. And if I read it, real talk, I might be crying right now if I actually read it as a book. But anyway, I give this one, I can't believe I'm going to say this. This is another 10, you guys. I didn't see any fault in the film. I didn't see any fault. I think I wanted to see a little bit more. At the end, I was like, man, I want to see more. But I was like, why? You know, they showed everything about how realistic this situation is, you know. But yeah, man, that's all I got. Hope y'all enjoy my review for Manchester by the Sea. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. I got one more film, maybe two, Hidden Figures and Hacksaw Ridge to go through for my, no, actually, yeah, just Hacksaw Ridge, because that was 2016. Hidden Figures was this year. So anyway, keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Peace, everybody.